This episode, we're going to have a brief look at the Exxon Shipping Company versus Baker case, decided by the Supreme Court of the United States, or SCOTUS. This case came about in the aftermath of the Exxon Valdez oil spill incident that occurred in 1989, but took nearly 20 years to obtain a final ruling in 2008. The Exxon Valdez was an oil tanker that ran aground on March 24, 1989 on Bligh Reef in Prince William Sound, Alaska in the US. The reef was plainly marked on charts in the wheelhouse, but the tanker's captain, Joseph Hazelwood, who had a history of alcohol abuse and his blood still had a high alcohol level 11 hours after the spill, inexplicably exited the bridge before the incident, leaving a tricky course correction to his third mate, Gregory Cousins, who was unlicensed to navigate this part of Prince William Sound. The tanker was carrying nearly 11 million gallons or 41 million litres of crude oil. The collision with the reef tore the hull open, rupturing 8 of its 11 cargo tanks. This oil spilled into the surrounding waters and the waves and prevailing winds quickly spread the spill. A jury had originally awarded $5 billion in damages to Baker, a group comprising nearly 33,000 fishermen, native Alaskans and landowners brought together in the class action lawsuit against ExxonMobil. However, the US Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit reduced the amount to $2.5 billion. This is not nearly as bad as where it ended up. The ultimate ruling was made in the Supreme Court on the 25th of June 2008. This ruling slashed the punitive damages imposed against ExxonMobil from $2.5 billion to about $500 million. The verdict was determined by the votes of the 9 justices of the Supreme Court. Justice Samuel Alito recused himself due to the conflict of interest of owning shares in ExxonMobil. Of the 8 remaining justices, Chief Justice John Roberts and Justices Antonin Scalia, Anthony Kennedy, David Souter and Clarence Thomas joined in favour of the reduced damages. Justices Stephen Breyer, John Ball Stevens and Ruth Bader Ginsburg dissented, resulting in the verdict to limit ExxonMobil's punishment to the same amount of money a lower court awarded to compensate for actual economic losses, $507.5 million. Justice David Souter wrote for the majority. Given the need to protect against the possibility and the disruptive cost to the legal system of awards that are unpredictable and unnecessary, either for deterrence or for measured retribution, we consider that a 1-to-1 ratio is a fair upper limit in such maritime cases. Justice John Paul Stevens said that, given the facts of the case, the damages should have been upheld, and wrote, "In light of Exxon's decision to permit a lapsed alcoholic to command a supertanker carrying tens of millions of gallons of crude oil through the treacherous waters of Prince William Sound, thereby endangering all of the individuals who depend upon the Sound for their livelihoods, the jury could reasonably have given expression to its moral condemnation of Exxon's conduct in the form of this award." ExxonMobil's attorney, Walter E. Dellinger, argued that his client had been punished enough. ExxonMobil said it has already spent $3.4 billion in cleanup costs and penalties for the oil spill, which ended up polluting 1,200 miles of Alaskan coastline. Not only did this Supreme Court ruling allow Exxon to evade billions in damages, it actually precipitated a windfall for Exxon shareholders. In the next 2 days following the ruling, the value of Exxon's stock increased by $23 billion. This decision by the Supreme Court now holds the reputation as one of the worst decisions made in modern times. The captain, Joseph Hazelwood, was acquitted of being intoxicated while at the helm, but convicted on a misdemeanor charge of negligent discharge of oil, fined $50,000 and sentenced to 1,000 hours of community service. Though the oil had mostly disappeared from view, many Alaskan beaches remain polluted to this day. Leave any thoughts you might have on this ruling in the comments, and any suggestions you may have for future Letters of the Week.